Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. That time of week again, everybody's favorite segment, the Power Rankings. Guys, we hit our first giveaway, 750 subs came in the very last day of August. We crushed it, so I'm going to be giving away a hat somewhere in this video, right around the middle probably. I will ask you a question, hit the comments below, let me know what you guys think. Everyone that does an entry and is subscribed will get an entry into the random draw for a hat, and if you win that, we'll be in touch. Power Rankings, it's getting intense. 1 month left in the season. Hope you guys are having an awesome long weekend. I know I am enjoying some baseball, getting this video out now. Jays, Colorado still playing into the 9th. We got the late Sunday nighter as always. We do this video before then. But I wanted to get this out because then I get to spend some more time with my wife, and hopefully you guys are spending some more time with your family and enjoying this long weekend. But we're going to jump right into it. Maybe not right into it, but we're jumping into it. Number 30, Kansas City, 0-3 against Pittsburgh, 1-2 against Boston. They had a pretty bad week. Losing and getting swept in that first series does not help. And they stole one from Boston, but overall they gave up a lot of runs over the course of the entire week. And getting killed by Pittsburgh, not helping your chances. I've had Kansas City in the bottom. They're going to stay in the bottom, and I think that's the way it's going to be the rest of the season. 29, Chicago White Sox, 1-2 against Baltimore. Got destroyed over the weekend by Detroit, getting swept, giving up lots of runs. Caused me to drop them. Honestly, I think the Central, we all know, being the worst division, these guys continue to lose all across the board, and even their own division beats up on them. So it's pretty much how they're going to be locked in there now. Number 28, this team, in my opinion, not as bad as they once were. They've made some improvements. They beat up, they take wins. They even got a sweep this week. Pretty incredible against their own division, LA Angels. My new Angels are falling apart everywhere, but Oakland is taking advantage and they're picking up wins, and they seem to be having a good team effort, and they've had that now for a couple of months, and I just think it's better than these two. The situation, maybe they're leaving to Las Vegas, doing all that, but I like their situation a little bit more. Number 27, this team is just impossible to sort out. Part of the reason why I just chose to start the Power Rankings, the game going into extras, if they do that, doesn't matter. All these games and cores really make it hard to figure this team out because they give up a ton of runs, but that's kind of the nature of the field. Their offense scores a lot when they're at home. They win these games, but on the road, they're like, it's so hard to figure them out, but it's very clear that they're the worst team in the National League, just record-wise, in terms of making a chance in the playoffs, in terms of where their future's going in that division. It's just a long hill away. Honestly, these three teams, I think, would expect to see some more improvement. At least they're fighting with each other in the basement. Colorado has a ways to go before they're starting to fight teams in their own division, conference, whatever. Next up, St. Louis. 2-1 against San Diego, 1-2 against Pittsburgh. A little 500 week. I think from here we start to talk about teams that are a little bit better. But St. Louis, not too much to talk about. 500 week. They're just playing out the rest of the season. Next up, one of the biggest falls over the past couple of weeks. 1-2 against Philly, getting swept by Oakland. They have now entered the bottom row. We have a new team that's been in the bottom row. They hadn't been in it all season long. Is this rock bottom for the Angels? I think at this rate, they can't get much worse than these ones. So I just need to give a special shout out to that bottom row and working their way out of the bottom row, kind of getting cemented out of it. The New York Mets, 1-2 against Texas, 2-1 against Seattle. They played a tough week and they performed. I'm not going to get them anywhere this season, but it's a little bit of a morale booster, at least, that we're not seeing the Mets in this bottom row. They're at least stopped the bleeding, maybe, I guess that's the best way to put it. But we're going to be really looking ahead till next season for them. So, yeah, number 23, Pittsburgh Pirates, 3-0 against Kansas City, 2-1 against St. Louis. Really good week. And it's against teams that are below them, but they went 5-1. Got to be pretty pumped about that. Step forward, progress. That's what the season's been about. They got to build on it. Let's see if they can have another week like they just had and maybe start to make their threat back to where they once were. That third row, it's ways to go though. 22. We got the Detroit Tigers. They swept the White Sox over the weekend, just absolutely destroying them. That's part of why I kept them where they are. They did have a rough series. The Yankees pretty much had their way with them, and they really showed in Detroit's record against the American League East. This Central really falls off compared to the rest of the American League, and that's what Detroit is starting to find out. They might have had to play these bad teams, picking up wins along the way in the season, but when it started playing better teams, they didn't quite have what it takes. Baez, big problem there, of course, but we'll see what they do next year, and then they have some pieces to build off of for sure, and it's time. They got to start stepping up next year. 21, Washington. After all the praise that I gave them, 1-2 against Toronto, and then swept by the Miami Marlins, I was starting to believe that this team might not be the worst in the National League East, and Miami decided it for me not to give it a debate anymore. Washington, well, we've had some good times over the past 2 months, playing 600 baseball, etc., etc. Let's hold our horses a bit. They still have a long ways to go. It's the same story as these other teams. They're not in the playoff race. These guys have no shot. And when you're not in the playoff race at the beginning of September, we kind of stop talking about you. Next up, San Diego. 1-2 against St. Louis. 3-1 against San Francisco. Just a good showing there. Playing disruptor, but they're still 6.5 back. There's one wild card up for grabs, and there's 3 other teams plus them fighting for that one spot. 6.5 games back from that fight. Sorry, guys. There's not much else to say. You're going to be just playing the rest of the season out. Number 19, still playing the rest of the season out, but they seem to be trying to do something with it. 3-1 against Detroit early in the week. 2-0 against Houston so far this weekend, playing tonight. Houston's going to try really hard to take this and avoid the sweep. Probably how it's going to go, but the Yankees, well, defensively have looked kind of like a circus at times over the past few weeks. If you've seen some of those highlights, they're winning a couple games. We see Stanton hitting a home run this week. We see Judge playing powerful again. It's just a matter of time. This team's better than the other competition. So number 18, this team probably in the same kind of category as the Yankees. Had a good week though, 2-1 against Minnesota, division rival. Technically, I guess they have a chance to take the division. Don't count them out yet. And then this weekend they beat a top team, the Rays, who have been playing very well, had an amazing start to the season, and they're in the thick of it. They pick up some ads at the trade deadline. They get some guys through waivers, and this team all of a sudden has quite a bit of talent on it. They just might not have enough runway to get there. Number 17. Like what I saw this weekend, I kind of watched them pretty closely against Washington. They really showed up right when they needed to, because the beginning of the week was not pretty. They went 0-2 against Tampa, that interstate rivalry, just 2 games, but they lost both of them, and for them to bounce back there is huge. This point from like here on it's just a cluster. A lot going on. A lot of these teams are super close. You could pretty much intermingle a lot of them, so bear with me. But number 16, I got the Reds. 1-2 against San Fran, 2-2 against the Cubs, so they're on the bottom side of the teams. Like, they kind of had a little bit of crash, and for them to start going back up, they got to be winning with confidence. And 2-2 against the Cubs, the team that they're chasing in that fight with, not gonna change my mind of what I've seen over the past month. Reds, they have some chances. They could get hot. They have the fate in their own hands, and that, as a Reds fan, that's all you can ask for this late in the season. It's been a while. Number 15, it's been a while for these guys too. 0-3 against the Dodgers, 1-2 against Baltimore. Not the ideal week for Arizona, and when you have a chance, you see Zach Gallen go out today, and he doesn't bring in the win. It's really rough, and it explains what I was kind of saying about Arizona. Like, the depth is tough. They're in that fight, and that's all you can ask for. Yeah, they're playing their hearts out, and that sweep against the Dodgers might come back to haunt them. It's a tough division for them to pick up wins. They got another Giants team right in front of them that they're trying to chase, but this team's picking up some wins. They went 2-1 against Cincinnati. They went 1-3 over the weekend, but they're beating these guys, and they're also trying to stop the bleeding. Like, all four of these teams are like really grouped together, and it even shows in the standings. It's going to take one of these teams to get super hot, go on that win streak, and they're going to be the ones to clinch it. Number 13, speaking of teams, I need to go on a win streak. We got the Toronto Blue Jays. Before I talk about them, if you made it here, this is where the giveaway is going to be. I just want you in the comments below, just write about what is your biggest surprise so far this season. And for me, it's the Toronto Blue Jays, and that's why I'm putting it here. I came into this season expecting this team to push 90 wins, 95 wins, win this division, make a shot at the World Series, and for them to be here, number 13, fighting for playoffs, on the borderline, looking in right now, I gotta say I'm surprised. So in the comments below, let me know what you're most surprised about that so far this season. Could be anything, and you'll have a chance to win the hat. Make sure you're subscribed. Moving on, number 12. This is kind of tough. This one was really hard, actually. 0-3 against Houston, 2-1 against Kansas City. So they play this team, Houston, who's also been kind of struggling. Boston's been really struggling. Realistically, standings-wise, they're behind the Blue Jays. But I like the way their schedule is the rest of the season. These next 2 weeks are going to define the entire season for the Red Sox. They play Tampa Bay, and then they play Baltimore, and then they play the Yankees, and then they play Toronto. So they play everyone in their division over the next 2 weeks. If they can come out of here with, let's just say, 70% win, I'm going to say playoffs bound. If they come out 50%, they're going to be right falling out. They got to do better, and I think they can, so that's why I have them number 12 right now. Number 11, the team that just beat Boston up. We got answered back. Our own American League team, the Yankees here, came back and answered them back this weekend. A lot of concern I saw when Altuve was hit by a pitch or he fouled a pitch off on him. He was really struggling, and he went out that game. I saw he missed the next game. Didn't see what the update was, but if they're missing him, these injuries are really concerning for Houston right now. It's been kind of the way all season. Of course, this team can turn it on any moment. Next up, we got the Texas Rangers. 2-1 against the Mets, 1-2 against Minnesota, and it's wild to watch this Texas Rangers team lose back-to-back weeks against the Minnesota Twins. And it's even funnier to watch it kind of shape up in front of us, how Minnesota's guaranteed that 3 seed. It seems that's the way. Texas could very well be that 6 seed. Then they play in the first round, and that is not going to be a good matchup for Texas, as we've seen over the past 2 weeks. Right now, I'm starting to be concerned if Texas matching up with any team. That's kind of why I have them number 10. I do think they're still kind of playoff bound, but I'm worried. Definitely a lot of concern in Texas right now. Number 9, Chicago Cubs. 2-1 against Milwaukee, 2-2 against Cincinnati. I didn't move them up too much because playing at home, I think they're pretty even when it comes to Milwaukee. Getting the home field advantage is kind of a wash in that situation. And then they split it with the Reds. So it's kind of like they're going 500 in their own division. Doesn't really have me enticed that they're going to go on a big enough win streak to take the division. So I kind of have them floating in the playoffs. I expect them to be in the playoffs, but making a threat at the top row, I don't see it right now. Next up, Minnesota. This team has just been Jekyll and Hyde all season. 1-2 against Cleveland. There's the Jekyll. They just can't beat Cleveland. They can't win securely in their own division at times. And then they go in and they have a big series against Texas again, and they win that one. And just can't figure this team out. Lucky for them, their division has been so poor that they've been able to just be this team and still have a 6-game lead. It'd be a disaster if it falls apart for Minnesota. I still think they're good enough to just follow the trajectory they're on. And at this rate, they're matching up against these teams below them in the first round of the playoffs. They could win that first round. We know that kind of jinx though, right? Number 7, Philadelphia, 2-1 against the Angels. 1-2 against Milwaukee, beat the worst team, lose the team ahead of them in the power rankings last week. Kind of the story right now of teams in this area. That's good. As long as you're doing that, you're going to stay up on the board, right? Philadelphia, they want to push. They're going to pretty much lock up that wild card. Seems to be set in stone with that. The team's coming around. Trey Turner's coming around. The team as a whole is coming around. We see Schwarber still hitting runs on the leadoff. It's whack, but it happens. And Philly is just ready for postseason. That's pretty much what I think fan base and players are all looking at. Number 6, expecting now to make their return to the postseason. 2-1 against Oakland, 1-2 against the Mets. So not an ideal week for Seattle after I really been boosting them up. 500 week against the teams in the bottom row. I'm going to let 1 week slide. They're going to stay here. They're going to sit in the top row because right now I think they're the favorite to win this West based on how these two teams have been playing. So I've promoted them. They're in the top row. It might be the first time ever for Seattle. I don't know. But they got it. They just got to have a bounce back week. Otherwise, it's going to be the most short-lived top row we've seen since the San Francisco Giants. Number 5, Tampa Bay, 2-0 Miami, 1-2 Cleveland, 5-game week. It was iffy. The series with Cleveland went back and forth pretty intensely. Took care of business with Miami. So, they're sitting pretty much exactly where they were last week. Not a lot to change. Playoffs, they're starting to feel a lot more secure. At one point, I was a little concerned. I dropped them down here-ish. I was concerned that they might start risking their playoff spot, but I'm not concerned anymore. Number 4, Milwaukee, 1-2 Cubs, 2-1 Philly, another 500 week. They're showing that they can win these series, not putting together massive win streaks. It is a big concern, especially when you got teams below you. I know these 3 for sure have all had long win streaks this season, so that might be one of my bigger concerns, is that Milwaukee isn't able to do that. And in the playoffs, you need to streak. But they got that division, I think. I do like them when they go in these 3-game series with everyone. I just don't think they can streak them. So I still think they're strong. In the first round of the playoffs, they're going to be strong. They're one of the strongest teams out there. Number 3, Baltimore. They really, really, really want that bye. Won both series this week, 2-1. Arizona, Chicago White Sox, Baltimore. They're pretty much cruising. They've been playing 600 baseball very consistently all season. On this whole board, they almost feel like the most consistent team in terms of avoiding streaks and maybe going on streaks. They did have one pretty solid streak in the season, but they've been super consistent. O's fans got to be happy. Number 2, 3-0 against Arizona, 1-3 against Atlanta. They avoid the sweep today, luckily, almost getting swept by Atlanta. A little bit of a possible preview of what we might see in the NLCS. Who knows? But Dodgers pretty much secured their spot because Atlanta secured theirs by having another dominant week. 3-0 in Coors, 3-1 against the Dodgers. This team put together, feels like it's 6th or 7th, at least 7-game win streak. They've just been unreal. Atlanta is on top right now. By far, they should be the favorite to win the World Series. And guys, thank you for all your participation, supporting the channel, all that stuff. If it wasn't for you guys, I would not be doing this every week. I do it for you guys. I just like talking baseball, and if people want to talk back at me, it helps out a lot. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. We will see you guys in the giveaway Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Peace out.